Almost 5 centuries ago, a young man who was destined to be one of the world's greatest navigators sailed from Portugal to the newly discovered island of Madeira, a distance of 530 miles. His name was Christopher Columbus, and the purpose of his visit was to marry a young girl whom he had met in Lisbon. He sailed under the flag of Portugal, the same flag that now waves over our ship as we approach the same island. The purpose of our visit is to see what has happened to romantic Madeira since the visit of Christopher Columbus. And insofar as romance is the inspiration of this journey, it is fitting that we should begin it with a song.
On the island of Madeira, where the moonbeams kiss the sea, there's a dear one in Madeira, waiting patiently for me. I recall the moon was shining when she first said she'd be mine. Soon we found our lips combining in a kiss as sweet as wine. That night while moonbeams were dancing, we started romancing beneath the moonlit sky. We vowed to each other that there'd be no other, but soon we said goodbye. In my heart there's nothing dearer than that magic rendezvous on the island of Madeira, where my dream of love came true.
And so, on wings of song, we arrive at Funchal, the capital and chief seaport of Madeira, where the fragrance of flowers and the balmy atmosphere of spring mingles with the welcome of a simple and kindly people. Many of the native people are descended from the Portuguese explorer, Zargo, who became the first governor of Madeira, and even the humblest flower girl may boast of her Zargo ancestors, who wore costumes centuries ago, not unlike those worn by the flower girls today. At all seasons of the year, flowers bloom in Madeira, but in the spring it is a veritable garden, and aside from the carpets of wildflowers that extend from the hilltops to the sea, the meanest wall in the darkest alley is adorned by colorful blooms. And now we are gazing upon Columbus Street, where the adventurous Christopher Columbus is said to have walked with his young bride, boasting perhaps of lands beyond the dark Atlantic, which he was destined to discover. And down in the center of Funchal, this historic old cathedral associates itself with another famous name. For it was here, it is said, that the defeated Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte was permitted to rest while en route to his banishment in St. Helena. His star of destiny had failed him, and here alone in this remote old house of worship, he knelt and prayed. Perhaps the world's most primitive method of transportation is to be found in Madeira, where the carrow sledge is still in practical use. This crude conveyance was invented by an English army officer for the convenience of his wife, who was an invalid. The streets are covered with small, closely packed cobblestones, which receive a high degree of polish, and also considerable grease from the lubricated runners constantly passing over them. An excursion to the summit of the highest mountain by a funicular railway train and the descent by basket sledge along this cobblestone path affords the chief thrill of a visit to Madeira. After guiding the sledges to their destination at the foot of the mountain, the men carry them back to the summit, a distance of at least 2 miles. When we admire Madeira needlework in the smart shops of London, Paris, and New York, it is difficult to realize that much of it originated in these humble surroundings, where women and young girls sit outside their simple cottages, embroidering exquisite patterns within view of the blue Atlantic and the azure skies beyond. A few miles from Funchal is a picturesque little fishing village, where we are told the discoverers of Madeira first landed. It was over 500 years ago, and it all happened as a result of a shipwreck in which a few of the survivors were washed upon this shore. Among them were the owners of the ship, a wealthy young couple who were eloping from their ancestral homes in Europe. Although the young lovers found their Isle of Romance to be a veritable paradise, the hardships which they had encountered soon overcame them, and their graves became the first human landmarks on the island of Madeira. Such is the story that has been handed down from generation to generation by the fishermen of this quaint little village. And now our delightful day on the Isle of Romance is drawing to a close. We'll have one last sip of that rare old vintage for which Madeira is famous, and then we'll go aboard the great ocean liner which patiently awaits us in the harbor. There is always a touch of pathos in the hearts of most visitors departing from this little island in the Atlantic, where about 70,000 inhabitants depend largely upon tourist trade for their existence. This may account somewhat for the merchants who follow us out to sea in small boats, hoping to sell us at bargain prices choice objects which we may have neglected to purchase on land. And so, as the golden sun sets into a tranquil sea, we turn for a farewell glance at the Isle of Romance, where the long, low clouds of twilight linger in the valleys like mantles of peace. Scenes like these provoke sentiment, and it is only natural that we should depart as we arrived, in the spirit of song.
Than that magic rendezvous on the island of Madeira.